Hey, here we are here, Paul, Mark, and the tech guy here on your 98.9 Northwest FM. Great having you join us this evening. Big hi out there to the 98.9 world and to Facebook. Tonight's show, every Wednesday from 7 o'clock, here with Paul. Mark's in the room. The tech guy's in the room. We've got a wonderful guest we're going to introduce you shortly. A discussion. Tonight's show is all about a discussion around three blokes, but actually we've got another bloke here with us this evening. Number 4 is 4 blokes talking everything community sports, current and controversial news, of course. And don't forget our tech segment. But there's lots coming up because we just had a quick chat with the great man, Mr. Marcus, and he's ready for a rant. I know with our guest, there's going to be a bit of banting, what they call it, happy banting going on. And I know there's lots happening with the tech guy, but it's been a great week. Thank you so much for our followers last week jumping on and clicking the button. It's really important tonight you keep following and we get interaction from our Facebook world and also 98.9. Jump onto our Facebook page and view us. I need to really encourage you guys before we introduce our guests. I need to encourage you guys, get behind Community Heart page as well. So you want to see us whilst we're not live on our Paul, Mark and Tech Guy Facebook page, get behind Community Heart 98.9 Northwest FM page and see us and say, how's it? Marcus, how you doing tonight?
Mate, I've just been thinking about how come you're so positive, mate. I mean, you're just a positive man. Everything's positive. But I don't know about that. I mean, we're going to have a pretty serious show tonight, but I got my old mate Chris joining us tonight, and it's going to be fantastic. I think we're on the same page on many things, especially our football. But I tell you, mate, how do you stay so positive, Paul, all the time when you've got a world that's, killing each other? We've got nuclear plants going to be happening down there in Glenroy where you are. Like, what is going on out there, mate? You stay positive.
Well, let me just put it this way. I guess it's like anything. I've got great blokes around me like you three who can bring a positive message, who can always help me with a positive outlook. So I think that should square it up. What do you think? Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer. Yeah, I think it is.
Come on, Julio, what are you thinking about tonight, mate? Where are you at?
Where am I at? I'm just up to, I'm thinking about the number 17. Maybe it's my new lucky number now, number 17. So I'm thinking about that at the moment. So see where we're going. If no one knows, Richmond is currently 17 on the ladder. So I'm not actually surprised, but I'm hoping that it will get rid of this 17.
I don't think they're going to move. Well, we better introduce the guy whose team, I think, still in the top 4 or 5, top 4. I don't think we're going to stay there, but who's our special guest tonight, Paul?
Okay, mate. So, folks, let's just welcome Chris Lacy, a youth advocate and also head of programs at Les Twentyman Foundation. And just before we started the show, Les reminded me you were on our program a few years back, just before COVID, mate. Chris, good to have you tonight. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks, mate. Great to be with you guys. Love your show. So great to come back and have a chat.
Good on you, mate. We're looking forward to it.
Great having you now. You might not realise this, Paul, but Chris is a bit of a legend. He's now in the media for the Herald Sun. He's one of their chief writers with the Herald Sun. So, Chris, congratulations on your new role with the Herald Sun, mate.
Well done.
Or the A. Which paper was it?
It was the Herald Sun, but yeah, hardly chief writer, mate. Just you got the opportunity to pull together a bit of an opinion piece, which appeared in the paper on Saturday, just really talking about youth crime and the importance of early intervention in dealing with youth crime. And that was really in response to the Herald Sun had a number of stories last week. They were really focusing in on some of the more high-profile cases that have been going on. Obviously, a lot of people are concerned about their own safety and about young people, what they're getting up to. And so I had the opportunity to write a little piece that appeared in the Herald Sun on Saturday.
Well, Chris, we've got lots to talk about in that subject. But before we get into the subject, let's just hear a bit about the Les Twentyman Foundation. And the great man, Les, obviously passed away this year, but he was a legend out there in the youth work. Great man, started a fantastic organisation that you're head of programs for. Tell us a bit about the Les Twentyman Foundation and yourself.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, sure. So Les, obviously a bit of a legend. Major legend really, as a youth worker and community advocate, particularly in the western suburbs of Melbourne. and really became the face of these kinds of issues. And, you know, the stuff that I was talking about in the column on Saturday are things that Les has been advocating for more than 30 years. So really, we're just continuing his legacy, and our focus is really on connecting with young people who are, specifically those who are starting to disengage from school and help them stay engaged with school, but also those who are having their first experience or connection with the justice system, so those connected with police or with the courts. And we provide an outreach worker that connects with those young people and helps them get back on track and start making some better decisions. I've also got our own basketball club, the 96ers, with our back to school program, which is pretty famous as well, where we help kids out with stationery and textbooks and that kind of thing. That's really what we're up to. Les really came through because he kind of understood that young people in the West, and also I think this also occurs for young people out in the southeast around Dandenong and Noble Park and Cranbourne and Pakenham. Their experiences as young people are pretty different to those in the leafy eastern suburbs. And so Les would highlight those challenges. And at that stage, he would say that most of the policy settings for young people in the West were lock them up, really. Once they got into trouble, you either ignored them or locked them in jail. And so he was really highlighting those challenges and particularly talking about young people who are homeless, young people who didn't have enough to eat, young people who didn't have access to school or access to jobs, and really doing all he could to advocate for them and to give them some better choices. So in terms of my work, I've been doing youth and community work for a long time. I used to work with you, Mark. You used to be my boss back in the White Line days. And I've done a lot of stuff in the sport and rec space as well, and providing opportunities for people to play footy and cricket and basketball, that kind of thing, people with disabilities, people who experience disadvantage. Did a bit of a stint with government as well and helped set up the Get Active Kids voucher program, was the last gig I had. And then I've been with Les Twentyman for the last couple of years.
Yeah, good on you, mate. You've done a great job over many organisations, Urban Seed and others as well, and just fantastic, mate. And I tell you what, it's great to have you here. There's lots to talk about, and the subject we're going to talk about obviously has been in the papers, on the press. Julio, I want to get an opinion from you just out of as we get going, because everyone's talking about knives and kids carrying knives. I was at a meeting yesterday with a whole lot of police and community workers and that, and they're saying, the amount of kids carrying knives is really, really bad. Like, all the kids are carrying knives, and because the media is telling everyone that kids are carrying knives, now if you're a young person, you haven't got a knife, you're thinking, well, hang on, I better get one. I mean, what do you think the answer is to these carrying knives and all that sort of stuff from where you sit? Because, you used to carry a few knives yourself when you were in the military.
Yeah, it's a little bit different in the military, but I don't think the problem is becoming worse. I'm not sure where it's coming from. That's a Chris question. Before, I remember when I was growing up, when we got here, because of the situation that we were in, we were stuck in with a lot of South American at the time that came from very, like Ecuador and stuff like that, very high level cocaine delivery countries that the youth were taught that way. So when we moved to Australia, we had that mindset that you had to carry a knife when we were young. I'm not sure if it's the same thing happening again now. That cleared up a fair bit. I remember when I was growing up when I was in my young teens, but I do find that it's not just a different aspect of knife carrying, but it's we're looking more, I think, towards the American, or I'm not sure where it's coming from, trends. I think it's a YouTube trend or something. So maybe Chris might be able to enlighten us about what's going on in that scenario.
Yeah, what's your thoughts about the knives, Chris, and the violence, I suppose, that can come from it? I mean, what's your experience?
Yeah, certainly we're seeing an increased number of young people carrying knives. And it's something that we, even as youth workers, we need to be really aware of. And one of the things to do is do risk assessments and things like that, just because of our staff as well. And we're transporting young people in cars sometimes, or doing things. And if they've got a knife on them, then that obviously puts our youth worker at risk as well. But I think the point you made, Mark, around young people hearing that others have knives and so they need to carry a knife. And when you talk to young people about it, it's all about because they want to feel safer. They feel like they have to carry a knife to protect themselves. But all the data and all the stats show that if the people that carry knives are more likely to be stabbed. So what we try and do and what we try and communicate is that feeling safe is absolutely a right that everyone has, and that no young person or no individual should feel unsafe. So what are the issues? What are the concerns that they have around not feeling safe, and try and help them understand the choices that they've got and where that might come from. So, and I'm speaking to police, they like to dispel myths, and one of the myths that's out there is that everyone's carrying a knife, so I have to carry a knife. So police are saying actually that, there are a significant amount of young people who do, but there's a lot that don't as well. And so we want to make sure that, we're aware of the issue, that the challenge is there, but we're not, throwing petrol on the fire. And I think that's sometimes what can happen. The media in particular loves a juicy story. And I think partly that was what we were seeing last week. I don't think it's necessarily that helpful to highlight the really rare cases, the young people that have got 300 or 400 charges. There's only a few of them in the whole state. For the most part, our courts and our bail laws and our early intervention program work really, really well. That's what all the data tells us. But there's always small numbers that for whatever reason fall through the cracks and end up. This, Mark, you've been doing this for longer than I have. The work that you've done with White Lion and with Big Brother, Big Sister, you too, Paul. That there's a continuum, and all the stats and data show, and this is why mentoring is so important with Big Brothers, Big Sisters and White Lion, that if we can connect with young people really early, provide some really positive influences around that young person, because young people are going to be influenced. We all know that. They even call them influencers now on social media, which drives me a bit crazy. Why are these people in bikinis influencing my kids or our kids? They've got no right to do that, in my opinion. But young people are going to be drawn towards positive or negative influences. If all the only options they've got are negative influences, then obviously that's all they're going to choose. But if we can put more positive influences around those young people, create more opportunities for them to engage with people who care about them and want to support them and want them to grow, then what we see is huge turnarounds really quite quickly in the behaviour of those young people. There'll always be some that need that greater level of support, and and for me, it's really making sure that when a young person is in that position, or kid is in that position, we talk about kids really. We in the youth sector we talk about young people, don't we, Mark? But really, we're talking about kids. We're talking about 11 and 12-year-old kids. They're what's been highlighted in the paper. If we think about them as children, and we think about them as vulnerable children, then that will help us make, I think, more humane, more caring decisions about what their future might look like. And that's what jails don't fix anything. We all know that. Les used to call them universities of crime. That all sticking a kid in jail does is help them become better criminals, make them more angry, make them more disconnected, and come out with more skills around how to do their criminal behaviour better. So theirs is not more jails; it's actually more positive programs.
Yeah, it's great point you make there. Yeah, good point you make there, Chris, about the community and the importance of non-custodial things. I suppose just, we got people from the right, and I don't know how far right Julio is, but probably a bit right from me. And so what do we say to these people that, I think people are obviously scared of machetes, carjacking, people breaking into their house, and nothing seems to be done, what do you say to people like Julio that, wants to lock everyone up?
You might put words in Julio's mouth there, I think.
Yeah. No, just talking about Mark, I'm pretty...
There is people out there that want to lock people up, isn't there? There's a lot of people out there that think, okay, these kids have got machetes, they're assaulting, they're coming in my house, I'm not feeling safe. You got to make me feel safe. Let's just put them away and then I'll feel better.
Yeah, look, and generally what I explain to them is like I said earlier, everyone feels has the right to feel safe, right? So we need to be doing more as a community about explaining what's going on, helping people, understand why their safety is so important. But the safety of young people is important as well. And all we know, and all I know, and all the data tells us is locking a kid up doesn't actually make anyone safer, right? So putting an ankle bracelet, nowhere in the world is there any evidence that an ankle bracelet deters crime, right? It's never worked. All it does is it helps add to the evidence for when that young person, commits a crime, then they know where they are and they're more likely to get evidence against them. That's about, because it doesn't deter. So what we need to be doing, and what we say at the foundation, is as early as we possibly can, we need to get these young people the support that they need. And that means a skilled, highly trained youth worker that's able to go out there, connect with them, do an assessment, find out what their challenges are, what their goals are, create a plan, and help that young person reach into those steps. Now, the longer we go, the more down the criminal path a young person goes, the harder it is to turn that around. But it's not impossible. And you know this, Mark. There's young people that we work with at White Lion who had significant criminal records that end up turning their lives around and becoming really positive members of society. We've got our own basketball club. And Mark, you and I met on a basketball court back in the mid-90s when you were playing for YFC and I played for the St. Alf Reds. We created that basketball club because young people need things to do, and we've got great coaches. We've got pathways there for our players to become referees, to become coaches, to become leaders. We've got leadership programs that we put in place, again, to help young people turn into leaders. Our in-school youth work program, and I was just chatting to our youth worker today about a young woman who had been suspended a couple of times. She just moved over from New Zealand, came to a new school, was getting into physical fights because she thought she was being disrespected. Our youth worker was engaged. That young woman now is in the leadership group at the school, and she's a year level. And in a 6-month period, we've been able to turn that young woman around. When she was on a pathway to being expelled, being excluded from that school, one more suspension, she would have probably been in that pathway. And now she's not just doing okay, she's actually a net positive for that community. And that's what we're all about, is giving young people an opportunity to make the best choices that they possibly can. And that can only be a good thing for that kid's family, but also the community in general. So those people that say just lock them up, generally what I throw back at them is that these are kids, these are young people, they deserve a chance, just like anyone does. We can't just turn our backs on them. Locking people up in jail actually doesn't help. And then as soon as you articulate that and you're not dismissing that person's viewpoint, and you actually come back to them with real evidence and that we want to help them as much as we want to help the young people, then generally people respond positively to that, because it's coming from a place of fear. And the thing that turns fear around is actually knowledge, and giving people knowledge around what's there can actually help them feel a whole lot better about themselves. And there are options out there that work. So we've evaluated our programs. We know they work. There's plenty of organisations out there that are doing fantastic work, that have evaluated their programs, that have evidence behind the program that works, unlike an ankle bracelet process, which there's no evidence that shows that works. So let's invest in the things that we know work and the community knows works, and not spend money on things that don't work.
Yeah, that's true. I also got some pictures of Mark Young in his younger days. So I was just wondering your input on this, Chris. Just, when he was really young, I was just concerned about him quite a lot, And then later on, when he grew up, he just, had this really bad energy happening. Do you think that this is happening with kids as well, that they grow up with this energy of just violence? And
I don't think Mark ever looked that good, did he?
It looks like he did. What's up, son?
Oh, mate. I was going to say,
Mark's got a... Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul, you work with a few kids, giving them jobs. That makes a real difference. What's your reflection on working with these kids and giving them a go?
Yeah, Mark. Well, I was just going to ask Chris, like what's the percentage or, how many young people you've got in the system currently? And when I say the system, forgive me for using that term, but going through the programs, I should say, and support workers. I've seen our young people through Social Engine in the last 4 years, mighty change. And it's all been about focus, support, listening. I mean, in my interpretation, as well as, hand holding, through processes, understanding, taking them away from fears, giving them confidence, giving them opportunities to explore and value, like actually really been sort of valued. So, I mean, there's dozens, there's a couple of dozen, and I'm really proud of the young people that have who have come with us for this journey, and quite a few of them have moved on and doing some amazing things. So, Mark, I mean, my hat's off, and Chris, Julio, tech guy. It's an amazing thing for me to see, and I'm really proud of it. And we've got a long way to go to making that difference. But I want to ask a question, like, when you get these young people, sort of like 10, 11, 12, why are they sort of going to the left or the right? Is it because of bad parenting? Is it because they don't have parents? Or like, what's the common denominator, Chris? Like, what do you, can you sort of, help us understand, or is it many common denominators?
Yeah, so look, that's a simple question with a pretty complex sort of answer.
Okay.
Yeah, the 10, 11, and 12-year-olds who are committing significant crimes are a really small number. Right?
Right.
There's not big numbers in that space. Yeah, which is great. And you wouldn't know that when you looked at the Herald Sun stories last week. But there's not sort of packs of 10, 11-year-olds going around committing aggravated burglaries and breaking into people's houses. That's normally the young people are doing that are a bit older than that. But the common denominator often is sense of disconnection, sense of a lack of hope, or lack of, any sense that they've got a future, and so,
yep.
And a really big one is a sense that I don't have any ability to make decisions in my life. So there's that's what I mean when I lack of hope. It's other people, other influences are making all the choices for me, and I don't have any agency in making decisions. And so what we find is that giving young people and teaching them how, to take actually control in their life. And we use the phrase flip the script, and often talk about it. Young people feel like, there's this idea that, well, my life, I've been born, I've got the parents I've got, I live in the community I've got, I go to the school I go to, I'm dumb, I can't, teachers have told me how stupid I am my entire life, they've told me I've got no future. I'll probably end up in criminal behaviour and there's this whole script that's laid out for their lives. But what we do is, okay, well, let's flip that. Let's turn that on its head, and let's say, well, what are the options that you've got? What are the opportunities that are there before you? And that's why the social engine is so important, because you get, young people not just get, get a course and some training, but they get a first job. They get a great first boss who teaches them what it's like to actually have a job where you're respected. They get some money in their pocket. They get a sense of what a career might look like. It's a great employer we work with, and we've just helped a couple of weeks ago, got 6 young people through their white card, and 5 of them had a job 3 days later.
Wow.
And this employer, and I was there when he said it. He said, if you want, you can work here for your entire career, and we will back you 100%. If you work hard, then we will back you 100%. And he talked about the guy driving the steam roller. I don't know if they're still done with steam anymore, but the roller, on the road, because it was about building roads, the big build at the moment. And he's saying that guy over there started in a similar line to the way you have, and we've trained him, and he's one of only 30 people in Victoria. He's trained to drive that particular roller, and he's earning 6 figures plus now doing that kind of work, and that's where you can be in that. And hearing that, a young person hearing that, immediately gives them a sense of, okay, I have a future. I can invest in this. Someone's going to invest in me, and I can potentially not just have a job, but have a career. And that's amazing. I could bounce off that all day when that employer said that. That gives that's so much. We didn't ask him to, but that is so much fodder for our youth workers to then
Amazing.
work with, to encourage that young person to stick with that job. So, and that's what we need. Everyone's got the ability to have a positive influence in somebody else's life. Don't have to be, have a job to do it. Don't have to be trained, to have a university education to do it. You just need to, when you can, give, choose to be, choose kindness, and choose a bit of compassion.
Yeah.
And then
you make some great points there, Chris. And Julio, you know this through your own life, mate. People can make a difference in the lives of others, and whether it's mentoring or giving someone a job and that. So, it'd be good to know what our guests think out there. I mean, I've got a question for Chris. He's a mountain of information, a lot of years' experience in the community. Lots going on in the community. Lots we can talk about tonight. And Julio, what are you thinking, mate? I mean, it's so important that we help our young people, isn't it? Like the services Chris is talking about, jobs, mentoring, helping kids, so important, eh? You're just on mute, by the way. That's not going to help any kids.
No. So Chris is making some really good points. The only thing I would like to understand is the resilience of kids. As we're growing up, we basically got given a free world. Are you seeing that that things are way too dictated to them with, like we say, with the social media, with everything else that's coming out, and it's just making it hard to build their own natural resilience to stuff? Or how hard a barrier is that to tackle?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Julio. COVID, really knocked young people about, knocked all of us about, but it particularly knocked our young people about in those lockdowns. And the social development that those kids lost in that time, we're still seeing the effects of that. I reckon we'll still see that for another good 5 or 10 years, the effects of those lockdowns. Not that I'm a big proponent or exponent on those, I think made the best choices that we could at the time. But, and resilience is a big challenge, and it goes both ways. There's the resiliency where young people react, it's like rock and water, like young people that fall away, too much like water. And then there's young people that their resilience, they've hardened themselves and they're like a rock. And and that means that, when things come against that, they act really negatively, to that. But the two things together, rock and water together, actually creates a young person or any individual that's way more grounded and centered and focused and whole. And so that's what we want to try and do, is build up a young person, break them down sometimes, but also build them up at the same time in order to help them understand, that the choices that they make impact on themselves, but also on the people around them. But resilience is a huge thing for young people at the moment. Social media gives them a dopamine hit all the time. They're getting that constant feedback loop, where people are liking stuff or not, loving stuff or not, and they get lost in that. Even like my kids play the soccer game FIFA, get packs. I got sucked into it too. I'm playing that with them. You get these packs, and again, it's a little dopamine hit. Do I get the good card or not, the good player or not? So there's this constant kind of thing that they're getting, little rush that we're trying to give them, and that can be really tough, and that's the stuff drug addicts work with, and so we've got to be really careful about how our young people are developing and how we're setting themselves up for success in the future.
Yeah, that's great, mate. That's great. Look, another minute. We're going to just jump to a song shortly, Chris. But just for our viewers our listeners, I should say, on 98.9 Northwest FM, Paul Mark and the Tech Guy, jump onto Community Heart page as well as the Facebook page to check us out via the live stream. You'll see the great man Chris Lacy with us here, Mark and the Tech Guy. Coming up shortly, we've got top 7 around 7, and I've asked our guests this evening to help us break down the top 7 ways to fixing the problem kids early, and also don't go anywhere because that's going to be absolutely awesome. And also we've got Mark's rant coming up after 7:45, and the Tech Guy's got his little bit of tech wizardry, which we always look for at the end of the program. But Chris, it's been really interesting, mate. There's lots of I think we've got some questions coming through shortly, but let's go for a break. I'm going to play Nickelback. You follow Nickelback, Chris? Are you into a bit of Nickelback or no? Okay, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on 98.9 Northwest FM, and it's Paul Mark and the Tech Guy Show with Chris Lacy here on this Wednesday night.
I'll tell you what, Julio, Paul makes us do all the hard work, doesn't he? He goes off for his little song break, and he leaves us to it. But this is the footy segment. We're going to go to that, Julio. Now, I know you're watching the Tigers down there at number 17. Chris and I have got a different sort of problem to you. Our team is up the top, but we know that's not really where they're meant to be. Like, fourth, it's a good thing we're fourth, but I don't think we really are fourth. But I don't want to go under 8, Chris. I want to stay in the top 8. What's just give us a little bit of a summary, your summary of where the Bombers are at, mate, because a lot of people are interested in the Bombers, of course.
My ideal is that we finish 5th or 6th, and we could have a home final without travelling up north and getting beaten up by Sydney in the first week of the finals. So, look, I'm just enjoying the ride at the moment. I'm just trying to enjoy us playing some better footy and if we keep winning games and finals will look after themselves. That's my take on it. But what I'm loving is my kids are loving going to the footy more than they ever have, and we're going to the next 4 games. I think we're going to. We've got tickets for, so that's what I'm enjoying. Is my kids enjoying footy again.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, Julio, what about you, mate? How's your season going, buddy?
My season's been going for the same way, I think, for the last 3 years at the moment. So I'm not really counting on any higher than pretty much 15 at the moment. So, but at least we're not to the bottom. That's all I'm saying. At least we're not at the bottom at the moment. So,
I mean, we've got a few injuries as well at the moment, Chris, and I think that's affected us the last couple of games, especially Parrish being out. But I suppose the Tigers, Julio, have had a few injuries as well, haven't they?
They have. It was good to see last week's game, but they do. Everybody's getting pretty much last injuries. So not sure with your case what Sammy's doing. Like, is he out or is he in, or what's going on with him?
With who?
With Elliot.
Oh, Elliot. That's against Collingwood. We're Bombers.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Bombers. Hey, now, Chris, what do you think, mate? I mean, we didn't win the last 2 games. Are you a bit worried, or you're just sitting there comfortable thinking we're going to do all right? Because who's our next team we're playing at the Bomberland? We better put the next
West
week's
Coast.
games up there,
West Coast.
Julio. West Coast. Oh, that should be okay. Let's hope we beat the West Coast, Chris?
Yeah, I think if we can win three of the next 6, so we've won 8.5. We need 13.5 probably to guarantee. 12.5 will probably do it, but 13.5 to guarantee final. So we need 5 more wins in the last 11 games. So I'm feeling all right about that. We can go 50-50 for the rest of the season. But the last 2, if we had a kick straight, we probably would have won both games. And Carlton are a good side. Like Carlton, I think they are them and Collingwood and Sydney, I think they're the 3 best teams. So I think the top 3 are probably deserve to be there. I wouldn't say we're necessarily the 4th best side in the comp at the moment, but we're there at the moment. And that's all you can do is, keep trying to play good footy and see what we can do. Get to the finals and win one.
All right, well, let's pick who we think's going to win the flag at the halfway point of the season. Who's going to win the flag for you, Julio?
I'm going for Sydney at the moment. They're playing too well. They're playing really well, so that's my prediction. I think they're going to kick him off the top at the moment. The way they're
Chris,
playing.
who do you think's going to win the grand final, mate?
Sydney, easy.
Sydney, okay. Well, I feel the top 3 sides is either Sydney, Carlton, or Collingwood, probably top 3. And I reckon Hawthorn is actually the 4th best side in the league at the moment. So I think it could be a grand final between either Sydney and Carlton or Sydney and Collingwood.
Really?
I don't really want Sydney or Collingwood winning a flag because that's going to upset us Bombers supporters. So,
Yep.
all right, I'm going to call it Sydney as well. But very rare, Chris, that I think the favourite team during the season win, or is that the opposite? They will win.
Oh, they're so good, mate. Sydney are just so good at the moment. So, again, anything could happen. Like finals are finals, and there's always upsets. But they have to be the favourite at this stage, surely. They absolutely dismantled us. We look like that in the Port Adelaide game. Those are the only two games where we looked really poor, I thought.
Yeah. Well, and Paul's back, and Paul's actually a Bomber supporter as well, Chris. How do you think the Bombers are going, Paul?
Oh, right.
Mate, I think they're doing pretty good. Look, we're fourth on the ladder. Let's see what happens. We've had a break, so we should have, set up the legs right and get all the the gusto ready to rock. I think we're fourth, yeah? Fourth, yep.
Yep, fourth.
I think who are we playing this weekend? I think it is
West Coast.
West Coast.
Smash them. Don't worry about that.
All right, and you guys are going in with this list group of injuries.
Oh, no. Jeez. No way. Look at that.
I hope, look, if Mason Redmond had played the last game, you never know, Chris, we might have won that, eh?
Mm.
Oh, I think we kicked 19 behinds, Mark. I think if we had to kick 6 more goals and 6 less behinds, we would have won too. So,
is that the state, Chris, for like all the games that you do high, point margin? Like, I mean, surely if you kick straight, mate, you win games, right? You kick goals, you win games.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think all I learned from the Gold Coast and the Carlton games, if we play our best, we can beat either of them. So, because we didn't play our best in either of those games, and they only beat us by a few goals each game. So, that didn't. But if you're off, you're off. Like, it all comes down to how. So West Coast I think this is a danger game for the Bombers if they take it too easy. I think West Coast will touch us up. So we've got to be careful because you've only got to be off by a small amount, and you can get beat by anyone. North Melbourne almost knocked off Collingwood a couple of days ago. So and you're saying Collingwood's probably the second best team in the comp at the moment. So as long as we keep, I think Brad Scott's been good with the Bombers. We keep defending well and have some good show. Are we on air, by the way? I feel like we're doing our best stuff.
We're on air, mate.
You're on air.
Live, I'm back.
Yes.
We had a quick break. We listened to Nickelback and Got to Be Somebody. Had a couple of breaks there, but we're back here at 98.9 Northwest FM. Paul, Mark and the Tech Guy with Chris Lacy. Coming up, top 7 around 7. Marcus, we're right to move forward. And also Mark's rant around the corner as well as we get close to 8 o'clock this evening. They've got the Tech Guy. Hey, for our listeners, obviously at 989 Land on Radio World, you can also view us. Sometimes it's a bit challenging. You're not seeing what we're seeing on the stream. Jump onto Facebook at 98.9 Northwest FM. Our Facebook page there, all community hard at the moment. And also I want to encourage you guys to follow us at Paul, Mark and the Tech Guy on Facebook and follow us so we can start streaming very, very soon. There it is there, facebook.com/Paul, Mark, Techman, / So get behind us and follow us pretty quickly. That's great, guys. So ready to roll. Hey, top 7 top 7 around 7 with Chris Lacy. This is going to be something a little bit different. Julio, when you're ready. I hope you enjoyed that there, Chris. Hey, so we've asked our guests to join in, and it's going to be an open panel this evening. I normally run the top 7 at 7, around 7. But for tonight, we just thought such an interesting topic. We've got a wonderful guest who's likewise, with Mark, had some amazing experiences out there in the world. So top 7 ways to fixing the problem kids early. All right, so top 7 ways, guys. Let's go number 1. Who wants to go up? Chris, number 1. What's the one way of fixing
problem? Yep. Well, number 1 is you connect with young people as early as you possibly can. So you need to identify young people and have those first lot of challenges and provide the level of support, whatever that might be, as early as possible. And for some young people, and again, the data tells us that sometimes the challenges that families experience when the kids are under 1 can actually determine what their teenagehood and their adulthood looks like. So making sure that there's good pre and antenatal care for young mums and families is super important. Making sure that there's really good preschool and kindergarten opportunities for families, and that young people can go along there and make those connections early. And we're all the way through primary, secondary school and going forward, we need to providing the support that young people need as early as we possibly can.
Awesome. That's awesome. Mark, number 2.
Well, I'll do number 2. I'm going to pinch one off Chris. So this would be Chris's top 2 probably. Get young people involved in sport or some sort of club, some sort of activity as early as possible. So junior sport, junior ballet, junior softball, junior whatever, get them involved in community activities, sport, whatever, as soon as possible. So that would be my number 2. Chris, as early as possible. I take your point, Chris, about early intervention.
How good is that? Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so we're just chatting. If you just join us at Paul Marketing Tech Guy, we're talking with Chris Lacy, the top 7 ways to fixing the problem kids early. Number 3, Chris.
Don't label kids. Don't make kids feel like they're bad. Don't make them feel like that they don't have anything to give back. Don't make them feel like that they're no hopers, that they don't have a future. Because as soon as you do that, as soon as you take away a young person's identity, take away their hope, and give them a label, then they will live up to that label. So whatever we can be doing, we need to flip the script and help young people understand that they have every opportunity in life, and don't label them, and don't. I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Number 4, Mark.
Well, I think, look, there is something about the education system. I might leave that to Chris, what he wants to do about the education system. But the thing, maybe everyone needs a significant person in their life. So I think what we're going to do is make sure that every kid's got someone. So every kid got someone program.
Every kid's got someone program. I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks, Mark. That's great. So we're talking top 7 ways to fixing the problem kids early, and Chris is going to give us number 5. I think it's an education piece. Yeah.
Yeah, keep kids in school. So do whatever you can to keep kids in school. Make sure there's all the supports that young people need, kids need, are provided them in school. That includes youth workers. So we've got Les Twentyman youth workers in schools, and they do an amazing job at helping those kids, particularly the ones that are on the edges. But yeah, keep kids in school for as long as you possibly can. And when they're leaving school, give them options as well, vocational options. So,
mate, Chris, if I can say, I think that's awesome. I know a young kid, locally community, who's I think probably year 9 or year 10, won't go to school. He's a skateboarder. He wants to skate. Obviously, he's having some real big challenges, but he just won't go. I've spoken with his mum, and obviously single mum as well. And lovely kid. He's not up to mischief or anything like that. But obviously, there's that challenge of maybe perhaps turning the left and getting into something. But he won't do school. How do we help?
Well, you need to find out why he doesn't want to go to school. And in my experience, it's very rarely I'm lazy. It's very, very rarely I just don't feel like going. There's always a reason why. And once you identify that reason why, then you move heaven and earth to try and create a solution to that problem, that challenge. And our experience, schools are really creating really flexible options for young people in that situation at the moment. So even if they just come back a few mornings a week back to school will be okay with that as a way of re-entering. And we've had some great success. As a young woman that we're working with at the moment hadn't been at school for 9 months, and we just got her back to school today. So
how awesome.
It can happen, absolutely can happen. And there's a whole lot of reasons why, that the young people get in that situation. And maybe it's like, well, I don't want a school, but I want a job. And then that's the case. Then okay, well, let's help you find a job. If you're old enough to leave school. But it's again about giving agency making positive choices. Understanding you can still skate, but no one's going to stop you from skating. That's fine. But it's the other things that you need to be able to do in order to help you, help you grow and help you become a more rounded person.
So, mate, let's ask the panel, right? Is it wrong that kids can't start work until 15 years old here in Victoria? Should it be earlier? Should that be mandated and changed? Because, I think working is fundamental. Great opportunity for young people to take them off the streets. Mark, what do you think?
Interesting you should say that, because my number 6, Paul, is
there you go.
Because in the old days we used to do paper rounds, chemist rounds,
exactly.
Jobs.
Yep.
We don't have them anymore. So the old KFC and McDonald's, Red Rooster, the part-time jobs, very important. And I think we've got to try and encourage kids to have part-time jobs, and maybe part-time jobs when you're 14, 15. They could be really important for kids, you know what I mean? And I think we've got to try and bring back the part-time jobs for young people.
Absolutely, Mark. But I'm talking even younger, and I'm not saying that we're doing this for like child labour or whatever. But is it like traineeships? We can get a year 10 student, or year 9. I think there's some year 9 elements as well, where you can do some traineeships for in a local butcher shop or a cafe or blah blah blah. But they're younger and they're getting involved in an environment that obviously changes their perspective.
Yeah, well, interesting. I had a chat to a girl on Friday night with the Melbourne Youth Bus out in the streets, and she said to me, "Oh, no, I'm not going back to school." She's only 15 years of age, and she's decided not to go back to school either. So, but when I said to her, "Do you want to come out and do a bit of work in our warehouse?" she jumped at it. She wants to come out and actually do a bit of work. It's just that school environment's not working for her. So I think you're right, Paul. We've got to come up with some other pathways for kids that aren't finding the school or the education system working for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're chatting to top 7 ways to fixing the problem kids early, and Mark's just given us number 6 is part-time jobs. So, Chris, I'm going to give you the top 7 in Chris Lacy's eyes. What's our number 7 for fixing the problem kids early? Number 7.
We need to have really well-resourced, targeted, youth-focused support services out there that can provide the mental health support, the drug and alcohol support, the housing and homelessness support, that young people and domestic and family violence support. It's been really interesting during the week. There's some more reports that have come out that are identifying that we should be looking at kids and young people as victims of domestic violence when they witness violence in the home, and providing focused, specialised services to them for the trauma that they experience there, because they found that the data is telling them that a young person who witnesses that violence in the home is both more likely to be a victim and more likely to be a perpetrator of family violence when they become adults. So that's what the data is telling us. Let's give them those supports. So, family violence, violence against women has become a big issue, as it should be. And we can't snap our fingers and fix that. That's a generational thing. And that's evidence telling us that if we can provide supports and trauma counselling to those young people, then they're less likely to be in that situation as adults. So we need really well-resourced, youth-focused programs that can really target those young people who need even those extra supports.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Marcus?
Just want to see if Julio's going to go through the list. I reckon we've only got 6, but Julio, how many have you got?
7.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Well,
Okay, here we go. Number 1, connect with youth as soon as possible. Number 2, get youth into sport. Number 3, don't label kids, give them hope. Number 4, everyone needs a good role model. Number 1, keep kids in school.
Number 5,
Number 6, bring back kids paid part-time jobs. And number 7, good resourcing groups and support groups for kids.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. That's great, Chris. Mark, well done. Awesome, mate. Here at Paul Marketing Tech Guy. But there's a lot to it, Chris. And mate, I just was thinking before whilst you're chatting. Is there ever a day of discouragement? Do you ever feel like, geez, this is just too overwhelming, or is it challenging?
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that, Dave. But you get, generally in my experience, and I get asked this question a lot. I was at a party on Saturday, and people had seen the story in the paper, and they said, well, how do you keep saying the same things over and over again, Chris? Because they've been hearing me say this stuff for 20 years. And Mark's been saying it, and there's a whole lot of people saying it. None of it's new or rocket science. And how do you not get discouraged? And I think the reality is that you see hope in the small things, and you need to make sure that you're reflecting when things are going well, so you can rely on that and lean on that when things aren't going so well. We lost Les only a couple of months ago, and that was a real kick in the gut, and we were really low, as a group. But it was amazing heading to basketball a couple of days later, and seeing the young people train and play and enjoy themselves, and just having memories of how much Les enjoyed that, helped pick us all up. So you got to find the hope in the corners, and always be setbacks. But you've got to and look, and stuff like this is good, and hanging out with people who are on the same journey is always really good too. And you guys do a great job on this show on giving people a bit of a sense of hope and connection too. So things like this help a lot as well.
That's awesome, mate. Well done.
Thanks, Chris.
Well done.
That's good stuff, mate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess moving on I know Mark was ranting before he got on the show. He's now been empowered by Chris and Julio and all of this discussion points. So is it time for Mark's rant, Julio?
Yes, leave it. Off it goes.
Well, I'll tell you what, Julio did a great job there as the tech man. And I'll tell you what, I'm fired up tonight because Chris is in the studio and he's been in youth work for many, many years, and we've been working together. And I tell you what, Chris, it's a pain in the neck how the government, how the community expects us to do our job. I do not know, because I tell you what, it is tough out there in community at the moment. There's no money, no resources, and the problems are getting worse and worse. And so what do they expect us to do? I mean, it's just crazy what we have to do to raise money. And I tell you what, Chris, I don't know how we keep going with the limited resources we've got. The government's broke. They don't want to know about us. But if they want to spend money, they know how to spend it, and they'll just give us a few crumbs every now and then. So quite upset about the way that the community sector's funded or not funded, the way that a lot of people are quite rich, well off. But I tell you what, it's hard to raise a buck at the moment. And, I know for the normal Joe Blow, life is more expensive. So I understand that. But I tell you what, you walk around the place, there's still plenty of money out there. And, the share market, Julio's gone up. But
yeah.
I tell you what, the donations to charity has gone down. So everyone's getting richer through the stock market. But I don't know about you, Chris, but I think that the donations to charity and the available options for charity to get funded seems to be reducing. That's my rant.
Yeah.
Upset.
Well, that's there you go. But
Chris, you got sorry, before you go there, check guy. Chris, any feedback on the rant? You want to add to the rant, or you're okay?
Look, Mark, you did a great job. I think we all agree. We're all singing from the song sheet there. I think one of the things I've really noticed coming back into the community sector a couple of years ago, after being doing more government stuff for 5 or 6 years, is that the philanthropic organisations that used to do a lot of grants, that seems to have dried up. There doesn't seem to be many of those available where you can apply for funding from these philanthropic orgs. So that's really interesting. There's obviously the donors and individual donors that kind of give support, but there's that side of things too. And I'm wondering why that is. What's happened to the leaders in that space, like the Lord Mayor's Charitable Fund and the R.E. Ross Trust, and the cardboard dudes. I can't remember what they're called now, but these big, the Pratt family, these big philanthropic orgs. Where are they gone? And why are they? They used to ring the bell. They used to talk a lot about making donations and supporting the community sector. And it feels like everyone's expecting the government to do it now. They're all taking a step back. So I'd love to see that more leadership in that philanthropic space.
I think you're right, Chris. There seems to be a lot of businesses in the middle ground, and I'm not saying they're bad, but I tell you what, you got no middle ground when you got no services at the front line. And I think a lot of money seems to be going into consulting and advice and all this stuff, but not much is hitting the grassroots stuff where you're actually talking to kids face to face. You know, it's all about evaluation, about processes, modern technology, all this stuff built for big corporates, but the smaller corporates actually doing the face-to-face work, it's tough, you know.
Yeah, this might be a different layer on that as well, Mark. You know, your approach might be has to be changed as well. You know, your current approach might not be suited for the punters out there. You might have to just change that a bit.
Have you got a picture about my new approach, Julio? I need a new approach picture. One.
But every single time I look up Mark's approach to collecting money, I always just come to this.
Come on, what's going on?
That's where I'm heading, mate. That's where I'm heading. I'm heading that way. Well, I might, because I'm still upset about Chris. I'm upset about Donald Trump. He gets convicted of a crime and raises $300 million.
No comment.
That's probably another whole episode, mate. I mean, that's next week.
That's it.
Back. Well, look, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't mention it, but we've got to support the good man there, Mark Watt, there with the Larapinda walk. So can you bring that up for us, mate? This is a big charity event coming up. We've got to encourage our co-host here, Marcus, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Australia, Larapinda Trek in 2024. Mark, tell us a little bit about it quickly. And let's get the trainer on.
To be honest, guys, I'm feeling a bit defeated. I'm feeling defeated, Paul. I'm finding to walk around the blocks getting a bit hard, let alone climbing these mountains.
Well, you got an option. Johnny's going to give you options, so you can take your option if you want. There's the option. So,
what do you think of the scooter for Mark on the Larapinda Trek?
That's what I need.
I think.
I'm sure you could hire someone to put you on their back, mate. Piggyback.
Yeah, that's it.
I tried to get Julio, but he won't go.
The trainer's given up. The trainer's gone. That's it.
That's it. You got to just change that diet. Change that diet from this to this. Okay.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. That's enticing. For our listeners out there, 98.9 Northwest FM, it's Paul, Mark, and Tech Guy. We just heard Mark's rant, and Chris added some really wonderful value to that. But stick around because we've got a couple of minutes left before we say goodnight. Here on the show, we'll be back next Wednesday, I believe. But stay tuned for the Tech Guy.
Tech Guy.
Talking Tech with Julio.
That's
Talking
it.
Tech.
That's the one.
Here he is. Go for it. Here he is.
Okay, guys. Today nearly killed me this morning, so I decided to talk about things that I need myself. So, talking tech at the moment, we are discussing today the winter jackets and how we need to go electric, like electrically heated winter jackets, especially if it reaches 0 degrees on a normal morning at here. And with this, I reckon for Mark especially, he just needs some winter gloves along with that. And also a winter vest, just to make sure that we get those kilojoules down, Mark, and it'll help you lose weight there while you're sweating away in your little jacket inside the office. So these jackets are quite affordable these days, and they're power packed and they're USB connected, so you can actually charge them at your office or your gloves. And they also have the ability to touch your phone, connect to your phone as well. So they're a good idea for today's world of. Don't know what the hell's going to happen temperature-wise. Next week, I'll probably have something for heating, like an air-cooled unit, because no idea what the weather's going to bring up today. So that's today's tech talk, just a small little one about way too cold this morning.
Way too cold, mate. Well, I mean, poor old Mark's going to cop the heat at Larapinda in Alice Springs. But I see you might need the air conditioner version.
That's it, yeah.
No, well done, guys. That's sensational, mate. So look, mate, it's been a big show. Thank you, Chris, for coming on, and it's been a big day for you, but sharing with us today, and your insights have been amazing. Really appreciate it, mate. Mark, any words for Chris or across the room really quickly?
Look, Chris is doing a great job out there, and the Twentyman Foundation, fantastic organisation, just doing really good work at the coalface. And love that you're doing the basketball still, Chris. Chris was very good under the key, Paul. Very good. And no one could get past him. And he always a good shot as well. So he finished off his work very well. He was sort of like the money man. And Paul, you played a bit of basketball as well. So you could probably get some tips off Chris.
Mate, we need to catch up. What are you doing Monday night? We're looking for a wee man or a money man. I'm looking for a money man. Monday night. Or Tuesday squash, mate. I don't know what you like at squash, but Mark needs some help. So no.
Oh.
So
There you go.
That's good. Great to have you on, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last words,
Thanks,
Chris.
guys. I enjoyed it.
Good on you.
Thank you, guys,
Well,
and keep up the good work. Good on you.
No, thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
And likewise to you and everyone as well. And the best of luck writing for Herald Sun as well, mate. Obviously, keep in touch. Stay in touch. Guys, we'll see you next week, next Wednesday from 7. Paul Mark and the Tech Guy, 98.9 Northwest FM. Don't forget to jump online and follow us on Paul Mark and the Tech Guy Facebook page. But also you can check us out here, obviously, on the stream via Northwest FM and also Community Heart. Thanks to Community Heart, guys, for allowing us to stream as well the show every Wednesday. So thank you. Whack up that link again, please, Julio. Facebook.com/Paul Mark Techman, I think it is, and / again. So jump on there and follow us. But have a great week, guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next time around, and keep smiling. And there's lots of music coming up, so don't go anywhere. There's lots of programming highlights here also. And yeah, just check us out on our Facebook page. It'd be great to keep you up to date with what's going on. But thanks, guys. See you next week.
Yep.
All
See
the
you
best.
all. Bye.